Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my college football top 25 poll for week 14. Rivalry week's in the books. Next week is championship week. So, this is probably how the top 25 is going to be for the most part, um, at least after 10 through 25. Um, and we'll see what happens during championship week. A lot of great games during rivalry week per usual. Probably the best week to watch college football outside of week one, if you ask my honest opinion. So let's get into it. We'll kick off with number 25, UTSA. UTSA, in my opinion, they're 10-2. They had a close game against UTEP. They were actually down a lot in that game, but they came back and won it. They're 10-2 outside two non-conference games, one against Texas. I forget who the other one was against. They are running through the Conference USA without problem. So, and they're playing some really good football. So UTSA number 25, number 24 Texas. This is because of the head-to-head. That's why Texas is ahead of UTSA despite having two more losses. Um, you look at Texas' resume, losses to Alabama. They went ahead and beat Kansas State. Their other losses include TCU. Um, I know they have a bad loss against Texas Tech, but Texas Tech did finish the season 7-5. I forgot who else they lost to. Trying to think, was it they beat Baylor? Um, Oklahoma State. That's who they lost to. Oklahoma State. So I mean, and we thought that Oklahoma State was a decent team or actually a pretty damn good team before they fell off a cliff when Texas lost to them. So I do think Texas has a decent resume. So I picked them at number 24. I considered a lot of teams for basically 23, 24, and 25 in this poll. And I'll get into that after I go through the poll. But number 24, Texas. Number 23, Mississippi State. Their losses are to Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Kentucky. Three of those four teams are going to be ahead of Mississippi State in this poll. Kentucky, I'm not very high on Kentucky, but they did just boost their resume, Kentucky's resume, by going ahead and beating Louisville, who was 25 in the poll the past week, and one of the losses, Kentucky's losses, made the top 25 this week. So, definitely helps Mississippi State resume a little bit there. So I picked Mississippi State and up at 23, pretty impressive win against Ole Miss there on the road there. So number 23 Mississippi State, number 22 Notre Dame. I moved Notre Dame down 4 spots. They lost to USC. Never really in that game. They got it to I think 24-14 at one point, but just never really in that game. They still have a few decent wins on the resume, so I kept them at number 22 Notre Dame. Number 21 South Alabama, maybe a bit of a inflation here, moving them up 4 spots. They did beat their opponent in the Sun Belt. I forgot who it was. Oh, it was Old Dominion 27-20. So Alabama got the win there. Very impressive season from South Alabama. I've been saying for a few weeks now that they should be in the top 25. They're at least in the top 25. That matters. My top 25. So the number 21, South Alabama. Top 20 time. Number 20, Troy. They blew out a bad Arkansas State team. I moved them up 1 spot. Number 20, Troy. They get to go ahead and face Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Championship. It could be JMU, but JMU does not get to play in postseason play for 1 year because they are new to FBS. South Carolina at number 19. Listen, 2 wins against top 10 opponents. I know one of those opponents are still going to be in the top 10. As a matter of fact, it was really, if you look at my poll, it was really only 1 win against a top 10 opponent, but two very impressive wins for South Carolina. They've really have been turning it on late here. They're 8-4. They're gonna have a crack at 9 wins here. I picked them in the top 25 and number 19, South Carolina. They are playing some really good football right now. Number 18, Tulane. Very impressive win on the road against Cincinnati. That was a really good win for them. They get to go ahead and play UCF. They can revenge that loss in the Conference USA Championship game. If they do that, Tulane's going to be your Group of 5 representative. So number 18, Tulane. I moved them up 5 spots, and I said during the preseason, I said Tulane cannot be any worse than what they were. I think they'll at least come back and make a bowl game. I did not see this coming, but the Tulane, if they win the American Championship, they are your Group of Five representative in the New Year's Six Bowls. Number 18, Tulane. Number 17, Florida State. I do think I overranked Florida State a little bit last week. They beat Florida. It was a good win. They didn't cover, but I moved them down 2 spots despite winning. I think I just overranked them a little bit last week. I think they're more around 17, 18th best team in the country, if you ask me. They're gonna have a crack at 10 wins. In their bowl game, they're 9-3. They're gonna have a crack at 10 wins. Number 17, Florida State. Number 16, Clemson. Yeah, I moved Clemson down 4 spots, and Clemson is the highest ranked ACC team in this poll. I'm not so. I think the ACC is the worst conference in the Power Five this year. I could probably even make the argument, well, maybe not, because they do have some. The middle of the ACC is actually kind of decent, but they don't have that top team in the ACC, in my opinion. It's going to be Clemson versus an unranked North Carolina team for the ACC championship game. What a sad, pathetic ACC championship game that will be. And the thing is, North Carolina might actually win that game. So, number 16, Clemson, I move you guys down 4 spots. You will be playing in the ACC championship game, and we'll see what happens there. Number 15, Oregon State. I did want to move Oregon State up more, but the way the resumes work, Oregon State actually had the worst resume out of the teams in the Pac-12 that were in the top 25. So I only moved you guys up 2 spots, but that was a very impressive comeback win there against Oregon there at home to win the Civil War. Oregon State, Jonathan Smith does have this program going in the right direction. I believe they are 9-3, so they're gonna have a crack at 10 wins in their bowl game. And it's been a very successful season for Oregon State this year, in my opinion. So number 15, Oregon State. Number 14, Utah. Head to head here, Utah will be playing in the Pac-12 championship game, so they'll get another crack against USC. They beat USC. Um, and a thriller there at home, but this is a neutral site game. They went ahead and hung 63 on Colorado. 63-21 was the final in that one. So Utah, they had the head-to-head against Oregon State, so that's why they're ahead of Oregon State. Number 14, Utah. UCLA, they have the head-to-head against Utah. I don't believe they played Oregon State this year, so I gave UCLA the nod. But I gotta be honest with you, I thought UCLA, their resume is kind of weak in my opinion. They lost to Oregon. They beat Utah. That's a good win. They lost to USC. If you look at the rest of their resume, it's not really a strong resume in my opinion. But they are only having 2 losses there for UCLA, or there might be 3 losses. I have to check and look, but they very successful season again for UCLA. They will have a crack at 10 wins at worst. They might be 10-2 already. But UCLA number 13 move you guys up 1 spot after beating Cal. I think the final was 35-28 in that one. LSU, what a disappointing loss against Texas A&M. I moved you guys down 6 spots. I still think you guys are the best 3-loss team in America, and I do think you will beat every team that's you're ahead of. I do think you'll beat these 3 Pac-12 teams out of 2 to 3-loss teams. LSU, they'll get their crack at Georgia in the SEC championship game. I don't expect much in that one. But from LSU, but LSU, I dropped them down 6 spots to number 12. They will still get a crack at 10 wins in the bowl season, so we'll see what happens there. Number 11, Kansas State. I moved Kansas State up 2 spots. Good win against Kansas. I mean, Kansas is a decent team this year. Kansas will be going bowling this year. You look at Kansas State. They're in the Big 12 championship game. They're going to get another shot against TCU. And that is a very winnable game, in my opinion, for Kansas State. So I can't wait for that one. That's going to be a great Big 12 championship game, in my opinion, against TCU. And we'll see. They're 9-3. We'll see if they could get win number 10 in the Big 12 championship game or in the bowl game. So number 11, Kansas State, move you guys up 2 spots. Now top 10 time. Oregon, I only moved Oregon down 2 spots, but that was a very disappointing loss for Oregon there. That was a game you had to get into the Pac-12 championship game. Now you're not in the Pac-12 championship game. Was your 3rd loss of the season, so you'll get a crack at 10 wins with your bowl season. But I mean, what a disappointing November for Oregon. You go ahead, You lose to I forgot who you lose to Washington, who I'll talk about in a second, and then you lose to Oregon State. Just very disappointing. Um, I think if you look at Oregon, you gotta chalk this season up as kind of a disappointment. I mean, you really had a shot to make the playoffs coming into November, in my opinion, and you just had bad November. So you still have a crack at 10-3, but it's kind of a disappointing season for Oregon. I moved you guys down 2 spots. Number 9, Alabama. You won the Iron Bowl 49-27. I moved you guys up 2 spots. No, Auburn's not a good team, but you look at Alabama, their 2 losses. Last second loss to Tennessee. Last second loss to LSU. They're not bad losses. Um, they're losses to our worst top 15 teams. So you look at Alabama, and they're both on the road as well. You look at Alabama, 10-2. They'll get a crack at the upper 11 in bowl season, probably in a New Year's Six bowl. So disappointing season, yes, but at the same time, um, still 10-2. And I know Alabama fans don't want me to say this, but still 10-2. Get a crack at 11-2. It'll be for most teams that's a pretty good year. Number 8, Tennessee. You guys up 1 spot. Very impressive win going on the road and being Vanderbilt. I actually thought you guys would lose this game. I was wrong on that. Let me take a quick sip real quick. Okay, there we go. Tennessee, very impressive win, 56-0. You will get a New Year's Six bowl bid, definitely in my opinion. Get a crack at win up 11 as well. This has been a very successful season for Tennessee, in my opinion. I know the South Carolina loss stings, the Georgia loss. I kind of think you just got chalked up as they're a better team, but this was a very impressive season for Tennessee. And I'd like to see how they build off this. So number 8, Tennessee. They'll get their bowl game. Probably we'll see who they get in their bowl game. But number 8, Tennessee. Number 7, Washington. Washington went ahead and they beat Washington State 51-33. This was a game for a while. I'll admit I did fall asleep for this one. My apologies for that, but this looked like this was a game for a while, and then Washington pulled away 51-33. Washington not going to be in the Pac-12 championship game, but could very well end up being in the final college football playoff pool in the top 6. So Washington, number 7. I mean, you look at Washington, it's been a very good season for them. You beat Oregon. I forgot who your 2 losses were to. Oh yeah, UCLA, and I forgot who else you lost to. But oh yeah, Arizona State. You had that ugly loss to Arizona State. But you look at Washington. They are a top 10 team. Number 7, Washington moved you guys up 3 spots. Number 6, Penn State. I moved Penn State up 1 spot. They are the best 2-loss team in the country. They outside of a bad half against Michigan, Penn State has actually been really good this year. I know the Ohio State game didn't go their way. They probably could have played a bit better in that game, but the game did basically go the way I thought it would, just a bit more high scoring. But you look at Penn State. I'm gonna be high on Penn State in 2023. I'm gonna be really high on them this offseason coming into 2023. So number 6, Penn State. They will be a New Year's Six bowl. I expect them to win their New Year's Six bowl, finish the season 11-2, and this was a very successful season for Penn State in my opinion. So number 6, Penn State. Now top 5 time. Number 5, Ohio State. I moved you guys down 2 spots. I'm trying to think what was more embarrassing for Ohio State. Um, them losing the game or that second half. I'm gonna go with that second half, especially the fourth quarter. That fourth quarter was bad. So I get so Ohio State. They lost the game to Michigan 45-23. I had the game 31-27. Ohio State. I was wrong on that. This game was a good game for the first 3 quarters. It was back and forth. I said though the game's gonna come down to if JJ McCarthy could hit deep throws, and he did, but it was still a close game. The first rushing touchdown that Ohio State gave up. Ohio State gave up a 75-yard rushing touchdown and an 85-yard rushing touchdown to Donovan Edwards. The first one. It looks like Ohio State actually did not play that bad. It's just that 9 out of 10 times what they did usually works, but it didn't work that time. So that's kind of the argument that was getting made about that first one. There was no excuse for that second one. Ohio State absolutely got caught with their pants down because Michigan was throwing the ball well that whole game. So they finally were forced to. I think what Ohio State did was they settled out on the run, and they finally had to make that adjustment. And then Michigan just killed them in the running game. Um, it was a very disappointing loss for Ohio State. They're going to need help to get into the college football playoffs, in my opinion. I mean, if this was the expanded playoffs, it wouldn't be a big deal. But Ohio State, I dropped them 2 spots. They were number 3 last week in my poll because I said Michigan was the better team throughout the season, and I was proven right on that this past Saturday. But I dropped them 2 spots to number 5. Number 4, USC, very impressive win. USC, it's kind of like I'm not gonna call it a love hate relationship with USC, but I picked them to lose to Stanford earlier in the year. And by the way, I saw the news about David Shaw. He decided to step down. Good for David Shaw there because he realized that he probably isn't the guy to fix the program, so he decided to step aside. I hope he gets another college. I hope he gets another coaching opportunity. He says he's gonna take a break, but I could see him coaching again at some point. USC, but anyways, I thought that USC would lose that game because I thought USC just did not have the guys on the line to go up against some of these teams. I thought there would be Oregon State because I thought that the perimeter play is just better. It turns out Oregon State might have been the best line play USC has faced all year. And USC still won that game. Utah. I said they'll lose to Utah. Not in the fashion I thought they did though. In Notre Dame game, I said they'll lose to Notre Dame. Um, USC was in control of this game from start to finish. I mean, I'm still concerned about USC's line play. If they make the college football playoffs, which I think they will, I think they are going to beat Washington and make the college football playoffs. Not Washington. I think they're going to beat Utah, revenge that loss, and make the college football playoffs. I think USC. If you look at USC, I think it's going to be trouble against Michigan. I think it's going to be trouble against Georgia if they're ranked number 1. So you look at USC at number 4. They absolutely deserve to be in the college football playoffs right now. If they beat Utah, they absolutely deserve to be in it. But I don't think they're really a championship team. So number 4 USC, great win at home against Notre Dame. I was wrong, but number 4 USC. Number 3 TCU. They blew out Iowa State, hung 62 on them. 62-14 was the final. What a disappointing year for Iowa State, by the way. But TCU beat Kansas State. You're in. Lose to Kansas State gets a bit dicey. I'll probably still. I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do between TCU and Ohio State. I don't know what I would do, but TCU just beat Kansas State. You're in. So number 3 TCU. Number 2 Georgia. And number 1 is Michigan. And I'm going to explain why I did this. I think Michigan's been more impressive throughout the year. They've been more um they just been more impressive. They blew out Penn State. They blew out Ohio State. You look at Georgia. Yes, they blew out Oregon. They beat down Tennessee. Um, they basically, I think they blew out Florida. Yeah, they blew out Florida. But you look at some of the games for Georgia, Missouri, not very close game. I know Missouri's made a bowl game. Congrats to Missouri, but not a good game there for Georgia. Kent State, not a good game for Georgia. Kentucky, I know Kentucky beat number 25 Louisville. Not a good game for Georgia there. Michigan, their 2 disappointing games of the year was against a 7-5 Maryland team that has been up and down all year, and a Illinois team who's also 7-5, who a lot of people thought could have been going into the Big Ten championship game with only 2 losses, and could vary and was in the top 25 throughout much of the season. So I like Michigan's resume. I shouldn't say I like their resume more because I do like Georgia's non-conference resume more. Even though Michigan, people criticize that non-conference, UConn's going bowling, so no one saw that one coming. But Michigan, I've been more impressed with them this year. I really have. That's why they're number 1. Maybe I'm a bit prisoner of the moment, but for them to go into Columbus and what they did in that second half, specifically that fourth quarter, I mean, what can I say? So I picked Michigan 1, Georgia 2. Maybe my mind changed after the championship week. Georgia gets a ranked team in LSU. Michigan gets Purdue out of the rest. So we'll see what happens. But number 2, Georgia. Number 1, Michigan. Now the teams that I dropped down. Number 19, Coastal Carolina. My God, Coastal Carolina, you disappoint me. I sat there, I looked at that spread, and I was like, how the hell are they 14.5 point dogs, Coastal Carolina? I know the quarterback, Grayson McCall, he's been out for a few weeks, and boy, was I fooled. Coastal Carolina, they lost to JMU 47-7. Just a disappointing game all around for Coastal Carolina. So I dropped them. North Carolina at 20. They lost to a pretty good NC State team, and by the way, this was a top 26. NC State would be ranked up at 26. Um, but you look at North Carolina. Um, I mean, it's just been a very disappointing November. I mean, Georgia Tech, NC State. You gotta find a way to beat Georgia Tech, in my opinion. NC State. I mean, okay, it's a rivalry game, but I mean, it's just been disappointing. It really has. They'll be in the ACC championship game, North Carolina. They could win that, honestly. They really could. But number 20, North Carolina. Number 2020, not 2022. Number 22, Ole Miss. Um, I dropped them. They lost to Mississippi State. Mississippi State's in the top 25. Ole Miss is out. They are a top 30 team, though, Ole Miss. And I said Lane Kiffin staying at Ole Miss. I was right about that. And then up at 25, Louisville. You lost to Kentucky. You're number 25 and you lost. I dropped you guys out. Teams I consider NC State. NC State, with Devin Leary getting injured, this was a successful season because they still found a way to get to 8-4. They'll get a crack at 9 wins. But this could have been this season could have been better for NC State in my opinion. They'll get a crack at 9 wins. I think they're a top 30 team. So NC State, they're Purdue and Illinois. I guess you gotta pick Purdue ahead of Illinois because of the head-to-head, and Purdue will be in the Big Ten championship game there against Michigan, which I expect Michigan to blow the brakes off Purdue. If you want my honest opinion, Illinois though, listen, I mean, Illinois has a better resume than Purdue in my opinion. Purdue, if you look at their resume, they lost to Iowa, they lost to Wisconsin. Um, Illinois beat those teams, so I like Illinois' resume better. It sucks with the standings that Purdue gets the head-to-head matchup and they get the nod in the Big Ten championship game, which the Big Ten needs to get rid of divisions desperately, in my opinion. So this doesn't happen again. But Purdue, um, I consider them. I consider Illinois as well. I did not consider Boise State, but I did want to give them a shout out. They were 8-0 and conference play. I expect them to beat Fresno State in the Mountain West Championship game and be 10-3 going into a bowl game. They will not represent the New Year's Six Bowl for the Group of Five, but they have been really good in Mountain West play. UCF, they beat South Florida in a very interesting game. They were ahead by a lot early, but then South Florida came back. Actually took the lead at one point, but UCF won the game at the end. They get Tulane, a rematch against Tulane in Tulane there in New Orleans. Last time that happened, UCF won the game earlier this year. That they're going to be in the American Championship for that one. And then I did want to give a shout out to these three teams, Ohio and the MAC. They've been really good all year in the MAC. I think they're 7-1 in the MAC. I expect them to win the MAC championship game. And then Pitt and Duke, two teams here that are 8-4. They've been. I know Pitt was ranked in the preseason, but they did go ahead and have a decent season in my opinion. And then Duke kind of came out of nowhere in the ACC. Kind of the surprise team in the ACC. They're at 8-4, so I did want to give them a shout out as well. I think I gave them a shout out earlier in the year, but they deserve to get another shout out as well. They went ahead and beat Wake Forest. So that's the top 25. I'm going to be coming out with college football picks for the championship week a bit earlier this week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. NFL picks probably Thursday. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate you do that. McD the Beast signing off.